Welcome to the Farming on Purpose podcast, a podcast for farmers and ranchers ready to shift for a stronger future. Today's challenges in agriculture are new, but the grit and determination required to be successful are not. On the Farming on Purpose podcast, you'll hear how producers of all sizes and practices are moving mountains for things they believe in, all in the name of an industry that keeps growing and innovating for a stronger food system and stronger farm families. I'm your host, Lexi Wright, and I'm excited to discuss where producers are finding success, challenging the status quo, striving for better, and keeping our heritage alive, all while producing the food we depend on. Welcome back to Farming on Purpose. Today I have Cole and Penny DuSablon here with me, and I'm so excited to have you guys on. We don't often get husband and wife duos, and when we do, the stuff that comes out for those episodes is always just so good because it's such a dynamic story when you can get spouses who are in business together to share. So thank you for being here. Cole and Penny are from Newton, Illinois, and are building their family brand and business. They own and operate Springpoint Company, which is a feed and Western store and a trailer dealership. So you guys serve folks all across the Midwest. I have to ask, is this where the dream started, or is this where the dream led?
Definitely led here. It definitely was not what the dream was started out as.
Our story is honestly a little bit comical. I feel like we've been together since we were 15, I believe. We started showing pigs together and other animals. We showed some sheep and goats here and there, mostly pigs. And we kind of started our first business at like 17, 18 years old, and we were selling show pigs. Both of us were pretty entrepreneur minded, so we knew we wanted to somehow potentially go there again in the future. And when we went off to college at SIU Carbondale, we ended up stopping the show pig stuff for a couple years, and then we got married, started our jobs, and kind of while we were in college, I guess started up the feed side of things. I'll let him talk about that a little more.
We started the feed business. This was a harebrained idea of mine, just one of the many, if you ask my wife. Just kept having people call me. In college, I thought I was going to keep going on the show pig route, traded some pigs here and there, kind of helped some show families along the way. Realized maybe that wasn't what I wanted to spend all of my time doing. So went into the feed sales after many calls of, you should really start doing this. That's kind of what I went to school for anyways, and didn't really know if I wanted to work on the road constantly. The first answer from my wife was absolutely not. We are not doing that. Let's go the more traditional route and go get 9-to-5 jobs, and we'll go from there. But I don't sit still. Started the feed business out of a 7 by 16 foot enclosed trailer, driving back and forth from my college apartment back home to where our customers were. Graduated about 3 months after that. Within a month, we got married and moved that to our garage, where it continued to grow. And then one day we decided that, hey, the trailer's not big enough. We wanted to expand a little bit. So I found on Facebook Marketplace, where all the great deals come from, a trailer that I thought was going to be perfect. It had been remodeled. It had been kind of like a mobile storefront, essentially. In fact, it was actually a boutique trailer at one time. And I'm like, this will be perfect. We can roll up to the shows, have some supplies with us. This will be great. I walk in there. I buy it within 15 minutes of getting there. We leave the driveway, and the first words out of my wife's mouth, this is going to be a boutique, right? So I'll let her take over on that, because that, again, was not part of the dream originally, but here we are.
How we ended up with the boutique was, I was like, we're not going to transform this into a feed trailer. Like, we might as well leave it what its original intention was, which is a boutique trailer. So I was like, this is something that's more up my alley that I can do along with you and attend the same type of events. So that's how we got started on that.
Let me rewind. I was ag lender right out of college when I was doing the feed side, and when we started the boutique trailer as well. She was working in accounting at the time, still is for that matter. I needed more time for the business. I went into insurance, mainly farm insurance, did that for a little bit. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the farm customer aspect of it, but I still didn't have the time I needed, especially with having a baby on the way. So we decided I was going to come home and work full time, but we didn't know what we were going to do to make it to where I could be busy all the time. Because let's be honest, a lot of the show feed stuff is very seasonal. At the time, we were only traveling with the boutique trailer. So again, pretty seasonal unless we really wanted to start getting 8, 9, 10 hours away. So again, another harebrained idea while I was fall asleep at night, I decided, hey, let's start a trailer dealership. And I would just like it to be on the record that the answer to that was absolutely no, again. And apparently I got away with words, because a few weeks later, I had a couple trailer dealerships that were like, absolutely, we'll franchise into Illinois. Let's do it. We looked around for a few months at some property. We were getting ready to build our own storefront. A family friend then came to us and said, hey, us and a group of people bought this property. It's kind of an investment property. We know you're looking. Will you go there? And that's where we're sitting at right now.
Wow. That is a roller coaster ride, expansion. And lots of, it sounds like, kind of moments of what's next and disagreement on what's next potentially. That is so cool that you guys started out of just a little box trailer with the feed business. I assume you mainly were focusing on the show animal side then.
99% probably was show pigs. That was my customer base coming out of college, because that was the market I was still working in a lot. We kind of dabbled in some stuff, but we learned early on it's really, really hard to get into like pet feed, stuff like that, if you don't have a brick and mortar spot that someone knows they can go to every week.
So this is kind of random and interesting. My husband is in crop insurance, and we also own a feed business that we operate from our farm. So the overlap is just crazy. But, we've experienced the same thing of without a storefront. It's just really challenging to do anything outside of the things that, people are willing to come pick up. That, and then your proximity to a mill is absolutely vital. Is that something you guys have struggled with at all?
Yes and no. I said early on, I don't know if I'm strategic or dumb. There's actually a very established feed store that is literally right across the road from me that has been here for years. So they kind of focused more on the commercial market, where the bulk needing the mill was a big necessity to them. I knew from the beginning that I was going to be more, show feed customers. I was going to be more bagged feed. Again, I kind of talked my way into some connections that had the brands that we wanted to carry. So we utilize their mills. And then there's actually a mill that's 15 minutes away from me. Another young guy bought it from the guy that started it. And we kind of are like, hey, here's the deal. I do the show side, you do the commercial side. I think we could benefit each other. So we bounce products back and forth a lot now, where I can kind of help run some more numbers on his show feed side. So having that mill close by gives the flexibility to have some custom rations if we need to, but we don't. It's not a huge focus of ours, I guess.
Well, that's really nice, though, that you are able to grow through those partnerships without necessarily taking on all of that inventory and risk associated with it. Now, I'm anxious to hear more about the boutique side and how those pieces interlace with the feed and then the trailer dealership. I mean, good call on keeping it a boutique, although you would have looked pretty impressive rolling up in that setup, I'm sure.
We started going to livestock shows with it. I always remember going to like World Pork Expo and big shows like that, and there was all those boutiques there set up. I loved it. Have loved shopping my whole life, so it was kind of an opportunity to be like shopping, but not always for myself. It was fun. We enjoyed going to all these livestock shows and stuff, still being able to be in that environment without showing. And so we originally started the boutique with the pure intentions of just traveling from show to show. So we were going to shows like Illinois Beef Expo and some other like Team Purebred type shows and stuff like that.
Jackpots along the way. I mean, we'd get calls from local organizations that, hey, we're putting a jackpot on. Can you come?
Most of our travel was solely based around the show industry. However, since our show season around here, there's not many shows in the winter time. We did do some other local boutique events over like Christmas time and stuff like that. And that's why having the storefront now has been nice, because I feel like we shift our target audience a little bit. I always focus more in the spring, summer, and even a little bit in the fall on more of the showier type clothes. And then in the winter, we do more some like traditional clothes and accessories and stuff that people are just going to buy as gifts or presents or whatever going into Christmas time. So yeah, having the storefront has been nice for that aspect. And we actually still do travel to a lot of livestock shows. I say a lot, but we went from traveling like 2 to 3 weekends a month to now only traveling usually once a month. And that's just because packing up our entire store and having to close, like we don't want to be closed here and also traveling all the time. So we need to be able to be at our storefront as much as we can. So we've been doing about once a month, and that seems to be a good balance so far.
Let's not fail to mention it becomes a lot more difficult when you have a toddler to drag around. Going from two young people that have no kids that when are we going to get home, it doesn't really matter, to now it's 6:30 at night and you're packing up boutique trailer while you've got a baby screaming on your hip. It changes a lot of things.
Yeah. Our first event was when she was about
3 weeks
3 weeks old, and I think we quickly realized from that point that things were going to change as far as it was not as easy as it was before. Someone constantly has to be with her, and just trying to manage both things at one time is difficult. And
I think
traveling was hard, and being at hotels and stuff was hard.
I think Toby Keith said it best when he said, "You're not as good as you once were." And that's exactly what we learned really fast.
Yeah.
It definitely does bring a whole new thing into the mix when you're also managing emotions of a whole other human.
Yeah.
With you guys traveling still once a month or so, and then having the storefront, how do you make that call of balance of, which one makes more sense, or is it just kind of a situation dependent thing?
I think we've kind of gotten a fairly good grasp. I say that, but this is our first full year with a storefront, and we are definitely still learning about when we should stay and when we should go. And I think during our prime show season, we honestly need to be here as much as we can. So the shows we do take a lot of times are on Sundays, or like we just don't take as many during our prime show season when the feed store needs to be open, or we find a way to where the feed store can still be open and our boutique can still be open. And we definitely do have to pick and choose events more now. And so we just kind of evaluate, which ones work best with our schedule. Honestly, a lot of it has to do with like which ones are during the weekdays, which ones are on the weekends, because a lot of livestock shows still, especially in the summer, are in the middle of the week, and we have to figure out, can we make that work? Like, I still work a normal full-time job, a 9 to 5 essentially, and so it's more difficult without me taking time off to go to those shows in the middle of the week. So if we can make it work and we have help, or we do have some employees that are already at the shows and stuff, and so sometimes we can be like, hey, can you take a couple days up there and work, and then we'll take the other couple days or whatever. So it honestly kind of just depends on the availability, and we still try to travel as much as we can. It just depends on if we can be operational at both spots and get all of our priorities taken care of at the same time.
That's nice you mentioned employees, because that was one of my next questions was staffing. When you open a brick and mortar and somebody has to be there all of the time, basically. I know that's a huge issue or a huge challenge to overcome. What has that looked like for you guys?
That was definitely, and still is, probably one of the most analytical, I guess. I mean, we have to be the most analytical when it comes to that, because I'm here all the time, right? So we don't necessarily have the need at the moment for a full-time trailer salesman on staff or a full-time nutritionist that's on the road. That's normally me. So we learned early on that there's a fine line and balance, because a lot of our kids are local and are in high school still or college. You never know what the right number is per se, because all of them are athletes. I mean, let's be honest, we're a small Midwest school. Everybody's in sports. Sports are FFA. And so they've got lots of activities. So you think you have enough one week, and the next week everybody has an activity, and you're trying to figure out how to balance it. It's definitely one of the more challenging aspects, but we're definitely still learning.
And I definitely say we're very easy-going, I guess, with our employees. We always try to find a way to make it work, as far as like if everyone's busy that week, then we just make sure we can both be there that week. I know he runs the store essentially during Monday through Friday at least, and he's typically there on Saturdays with me as well. And I try to work when I'm off of my normal job, which is Friday afternoons and Saturdays. I try to be there as much as I can. And then we usually have our employees there, especially during the busier days. A lot of them primarily work on Fridays and Saturdays, just for the sole purpose that that's when we're the busiest. Because what you'll find with a feed store, and you guys probably have seen this before, our Western store, is there's going to be some times where it's extremely slow. Like, you might have days where not a person walks in. It's just the time of day, the weather's bad, whatever XYZ reason. But it's not like we always need to have employees there. And so we try to balance it as much as we can while giving them hours, but also understanding their schedules and everything like that. And I think right now we do a fairly good job. I think
For
our
sure.
employees enjoy working there.
I would definitely say, I mean, let's be real. We've all worked a job we didn't like. So hey, we're very relaxed. I don't ever want to be the reason, especially a kid in high school, doesn't get a chance to be a kid.
Yeah, call us Gen Z, but I feel like we're the cool bosses. I say that lightly, but we try to be as easygoing as possible and to try to make working here an enjoyable experience and make it something they want to do and enjoy doing, because I truly do. If you treat your employees right, then they'll treat you right in return.
And they have their whole lives to work. So, if we can, they can get a few hours here during the week and they're good with it. I want them to be able to go do their activities. And then I worked a job where I had to do all the crummy stuff all of the time. And I understand there's going to be jobs that we don't like to do, but I want to limit that for them. I don't want them to feel like they come here and they're just pushing the broom just because we need to give them busy work.
I would agree. I always have said the jobs I've found in my life to be the most enjoyable are the ones where, your boss doesn't think that they're necessarily on a higher level than you. Obviously, they're kind of in charge of you in a way, but like I would never make my employees do something I wouldn't do myself. Like I'll gladly, if I'm going to ask you to clean the toilets, I'll clean the toilets too. Like I very rarely ask them to do a task like that I wouldn't want to do. So I think having that respect with them is good too.
That's an incredible opportunity to give kids to have that opportunity to work in a flexible way so they can still do those activities, because I mean there's a lot of businesses that either can't accommodate that schedule or won't accommodate that schedule. So the fact that you're giving them job experience while still letting them be kids and do kid things is just
for sure. And
awesome.
we've been really, really blessed because all of the kids that work for us come from a livestock farming background and are wanting to continue that later. So it's not just a high school job that we can write on a resume. It's something that will actually add value for their college applications, for future job applications, and so on.
Agreed. And I think these kids being involved in activities and stuff makes them really good employees for us. And that's why I'm like, I want them to have those opportunities. I did those things in high school, and I'm like, absolutely do what you need to do. This is the only time in your life you get to do that.
Well, I mean, that is a struggle that so many face in ag right now, and on different ends of the spectrum, whether it's working with high school students or it's figuring out what labor looks like on their dairy. It's just such an expansive issue in ag. So it's fun to hear how you guys are tackling it in retail. I think there's a lot of things about ag retail that so many people, even in ag, don't understand or maybe don't
For
think
sure.
about. What are some of the things you guys have experienced that maybe you wish more people knew?
Loyalty is huge in ag. And I mean, you guys know this. It doesn't matter where in the United States you are. Loyalty makes your ag business. The one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't realize on the retail side, just kind of like a farmer in their crops, margins get really, really tight sometimes. Unfortunately, your customer base doesn't understand the sacrifices that as you guys know, in your feed store, especially in a feed store, loss is huge. There's a lot of loss. But I feel like sometimes people don't realize that with loyalty, people also price shop around a lot. I mean, we do the best we can to serve our customers, but they also have to realize that, it's also incredibly expensive for you to grow those soybeans. Well, guess what? That bag of feed's almost all soybean meals. So it's going to be incredibly expensive for me to get this product to you as well. And I feel like there tends to become a disconnect from a producer to a consumer standpoint there, where we seem to be, and this is ag in general has had a horrible problem, we're tunnel vision. We look at our position, but we don't look at the outside position of all the other people involved in agriculture as well.
I would agree. The margins are a huge thing of, we want to offer the most reasonable prices possible, but there's a lot of things people don't account for in retail. Like I was explaining to some of our employees just a couple weeks ago about how, when you're buying a shirt, it might seem like just a shirt, but that's not accounting for the shipping costs. That's not accounting for the bag that we had to purchase or the sticker we put on the bags or any of those type of things. You're accounting for a lot more than just the shirt, trying to set your margins and everything. And honestly, that's something we're still working on, of trying to figure out like where the balance. I would say that has been one of our bigger difficulties. And I was going to say the other thing I feel like we struggle with the most is people have a personal relationship with you, right? They have a personal relationship with Penny. They have a personal relationship with Cole. And so like when Cole's out of the office, people are like, well, where's Cole? And I'm like, well, Cole can't be here today. And they, of course, want to talk to Cole. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to talk to one of us. He can't be here every second of the day. Unfortunately, I wish he could. It'd make my life easier. Trying to get people to trust other individuals in our retail store, like trusting our other employees. And they still are learning. They make mistakes. We make mistakes. That was definitely a difficult part. I actually remember when I was pregnant, I wasn't posting much in my boutique clothes because I couldn't fit them. And a lot of people were like, well, you're not really posting much of yourself. You're posting all these other girls. And I'm like, yeah, because I can't. I'm like, I gladly would, but I can't. I think people struggle a little bit with that. But we're only two people and we can only do so much. And so we try, like, that's why we try to be here literally as much as we can. We know our customers want to see us. They want to see the foundation of the business. And I totally understand that. And so we do try to be here as much as we can, but I definitely think that's a struggle.
And I'm going to add to that, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial and rock the boat. Unfortunately, that's what Cole does. But to build on to what Penny says, we deal with a lot in our area that we have a lot of older producers. Let's be honest, in ag in general, there's a lot of older producers. There's not a lot of young people like us that still want to actively do this. It is a lot of hard work, and again, the margins aren't great sometimes. But we deal with having a lot of women in the store tends to become an issue with certain generations, especially when it comes to the feed business, that they're definitely not going to take advice from a woman because they don't know. And the thing is, some of these, as I said, these kids have grown up in livestock. I've watched them feed their show livestock. They know what they're talking about, but I'm sure you've dealt with this as well. There are definitely people that come to your house as well that would much rather talk to your husband than talk to you, unfortunately. And I feel like that's something you have to deal with in ag, but it is getting better, but I think it still is a problem that we face in the store from time to time.
Yeah, I think that is challenging. And I think it's 100% a big issue in ag retail. You see it regardless of what you're selling, just the lack of trust from that generation. And it's partially understandable. I mean, that's not the world they grew up in.
And I mean, the ag industry is ever evolving. And I remember being in FFA, and when I was in FFA, there was an all-girl state officer team for the first time, I believe, ever in Illinois. And whenever it happened, like, there was a lot of opinions about it, and it's just like the ag world is just constantly evolving, and I think there's a place for all of us, and I love that we're all able to find our place in it. And I think as our generations continue to grow up and continue to prove ourselves, and I think there is room for that. I think we do need to prove ourselves that we can be confident with what we know and really build off that.
Unfortunately, the saying is true that agriculture in itself is constantly 10 years behind. That we run about 10 years behind everybody else in terms of, let's be honest, technology, our sales strategies. I mean, I still know seed salesmen that write everything on paper. I'm sorry, that ship sailed a long time ago. But we don't like it when people move our cheese. We like to stay very, very consistent, and this is how we've done it forever, and this is the way I'm going to do it forever.
And I think a lot of the reason for that is because there's so much risk in this industry. So being able to say this is something that is not changing is a little bit of like a comfort blanket, I think. But yeah, it's to be able to progress, to keep up, to grow, we have to be able to adapt to that change. I think one of the things you said, Penny, was, that folks are not enjoying or maybe disappointed when they don't get a personal interaction with you guys. And that's something that I think folks just don't realize, that is a side effect of growth. Like, if they want your business to grow and to be able to provide them the services that they want to access, then you guys have to be less personable or less available to everyone. That's how it works. If you guys were out there shaking hands with every customer that you ever had come in the store, you wouldn't be able to grow.
Agreed. I was going to say, and that's something we've had to just figure out a balance of, because I would love to be in the store every waking second, but also our 1-year-old is not going to tolerate that for long periods of time. She's in the store a lot. Trust me, she's in there a lot. But there does become a point where she will refuse to take a nap in there, and she's going to scream and make the customer experience not well. And so one of us has to go home. So that's just a part of it.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, as in that's an indicator of growth. We opened the store up in March of this year. And I remember there was a lot of my old customers that have been with us since the very beginning that became very distraught, or this is not going to be the right word, but petty in their way they would talk to me. Because when I just had those customers, unfortunately, when you look at it now, I'm glad I did it. But we could baby those customers. Anything they needed, I was there. Probably too much, honestly. And then it I was getting lots of comments at the beginning of the year, but do you even have time? Or Do you want to? I want to. That's the thing. But the problem is you have to realize I now have 150 others of you guys that are asking me if I want to as well. So, I mean, you're going to have to learn to take turns. Unfortunately, that goes back to that comment of in ag, we have tunnel vision, and as I think as humans, we're so self-centered anymore that we see that this is my need and you're not meeting it like you were, when in reality that there's 5 other people in the store right now that could meet your need. We just have to adapt a little bit.
And I was going to say, I think it was just a huge adjustment for everyone of going from having us available all the time to, I mean, we had a baby essentially at the same time as really jumping into this business of taking it to the next level with the storefront. And so there was definitely a lot of challenges with that. And I do feel like our customers have done well now. Like, it just took some time. I was gonna say there's
always growing pains.
Yeah, there was definitely growing pains at the beginning, and I feel like we're starting to overcome that now. And people are like, "Hey, you guys have a storefront, and there's hours, and we can just stop in there during those hours." And I'm like, that would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we sometimes forget to account, both when we think of ourselves or kind of grade ourselves on an internal scale, and from other outsiders who maybe don't know the full story of like, it's not just the business, it's your guys' life too. And you have a growing family. And when you have some of these things that all kind of coincide together, yeah, it's going to change. Like, it has to change or you're going to have some major issues.
Which we threw a lot at our customers this year. And that's what we try to remind each other of is, we grew our family and started a storefront at the same time. And so it was throwing a lot at the wall at one time and being like, okay, everybody adjust.
Yeah, I definitely don't fault a single one of them. It was not uncommon before where I'd get calls at 9:30 at night that, hey, I'm driving through town. Do you care if I swing by your house to pick up feed? Yeah, I don't have a kid at home. I'm not tired. I'm 22 years old. Yeah, come by. And then we'd sit in the driveway and talk forever. Unfortunately, that life's no longer here. And fortunately, we are growing our family. We have a storefront now. So again, I don't fault anybody for it. It's just the growing pains are felt on all sides of the business. And I feel like that's something that happens, especially in agriculture, because we all get used to the way we've done things. And suddenly, yeah, I'm not able to walk outside my house and set feed out for you. I've got to get in my car and drive to the store if I'm going to do that. And that changes a lot of stuff.
And I've started to see that, understand that more. I used to not understand why older generations weren't as willing to change. And I'm like, it's hard to change. I now look at generations below me, and when they start talking about this stuff that I don't know about, and I'm just like, how do you know more than I do? I thought I was up to date with everything. And it's hard to change and constantly follow with all the changing environments that we just constantly have now. It's just always a changing world.
Yeah, it definitely helps having high school employees. I mean, we hear this 6-7 term all the time in the store now, but whatever that is, it opens up your eyes to, as Penny said, do you realize why the older generations are the way they are? Unfortunately, we see ourselves becoming that way. But I think from our standpoint, it's fascinating to see the younger ideas in ag, especially around retail, because it's ever changing, especially with these mobile stores, stuff like that becoming a major thing, to how the older generation has done it for so long and still do it and seem to be successful doing it.
I mean, our industry changes so quick now all the time. Like, I know the show industry in particular, like the trends change all the time. And so to try to stay up on that, or someone comes in with a new product that they've been using and they're like, I want you to carry this product. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to educate ourselves on this product and be willing to change with the trends on that. And same with clothing. The clothing trends literally change constantly, and it's trying to play a game of like, let's stay up with those and try to figure out what everybody wants.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been a big year of change for you guys then, with your growing family, growing the business. I can only imagine what that's looked and felt like. What are maybe some of the things that have been maybe pivotal moments as you guys have grown that you think maybe someone could benefit from hearing about if they're in a similar stage of growth?
I guess for me, I'll let him talk in a second, but I guess for me is like, give yourself patience. It was tough. Like the beginning, especially right after we had our daughter, which her birthday was actually yesterday, so she just turned 1. Right after we had her, those first few weeks, we're first time parents, so trying to figure out being mom and dad, and then also getting no sleep at night and trying to start this business and really get it to take off. I mean, we had already started it, but starting this storefront and trying to get those things in place. I remember we were in the hospital room and he starts talking about like a potential location for our business. And I'm just like, okay, I guess. And so it kind of got thrown all at us all at once. And so trying to deal with it and trying to like I said, just be patient with yourself because it's just part of growing and changing. And I mean, you can do anything you set your mind to. I say that all the time. And I say that as a working mom of like, there's a lot of judgment around how much time you spend with your child or how much you don't and how much you're raising them, whatever. And I just always try to give myself grace and realize that, I'm doing the best with what I have. I'm trying to grow this legacy for her. That's what I tell people all the time. I'm like, yeah, it's really difficult right now, but she doesn't know any different. She loves traveling everywhere. She literally doesn't know any different. She's used to it now. She's very adaptable and she's very social. She loves being around people because that's who she's around all the time. And so yeah, there's definitely challenges with it, but she doesn't know any different. And it's just teaching her our legacy. And I'm hoping we can leave something behind for her one day. And she can be like, I'm glad you guys worked really hard in those moments. And yeah, it can be a tough couple of years and I'm sure it will continue to be, and we'll face new challenges, but that hopefully will all pay off one day and we can look back and be like, yeah, those moments were worth it.
The term pivotal, there's been a lot of those moments within the last year. I didn't say this in the intro, but I walked away from my job, my full-time job selling insurance unexpectedly 1 week before my kid was born with no plan on where this business was going to go, mind you. I was supposed to have a month before her due date and everything looked like that's when it was going to be. But due to some health issues and stuff came a lot earlier. So that was the week before. I also learned really quickly doing business with friends is tough, but having a wife as a business partner is a lot tougher. Really, really hard. I struggle with it. We have two very, very different personalities.
Yeah, I guess we look really nice, but how they say you need one that's water and one that's fire. We're both fire. So
on the opposite end of the spectrum, though, if life was a Monopoly board game, she would be I'm going to sit on my money and just watch it grow. I am why do we have money here? You can't take it with you when you die. Let's just keep on growing. And it kind of leads to some arguments from time to time.
I mean, it was terrifying. When he took the leap to quit his full-time job, it was terrifying. I was just like, I don't know what we're going to do. And, we've made it work and we keep growing this business. And everyone always told us, they were like, you might as well do it when you're young because otherwise you'll regret it. And I guess that's where I'm at with it is if this would never work out or whatever, I can at least look back and be like, we gave it our best shot. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do is take the risk. I hate taking risks, but he's a risk taker. And I really enjoy that. He brings out that side of me of you can do this. If we want to do this, we can make it work.
And that's the same way, as I was saying, with doing business with your spouse being the hardest thing. But it's also the most rewarding thing because when you do have the good moments, you see that you guys built it together. It was not don't get me wrong, there were some bad moments, but the good definitely outweighs the bad moments there. It's just you have to, and it doesn't matter if it's business with your dad as a father-son farming operation. When you're messing with family, there has to be a set boundary that from this point on today, we're not going to bring up the business. Because while I love the legacy that we're building for our daughter, I don't want her to think, even though I don't want her to think that this is the only thing that ever crosses my mind. Mm-hmm. That there is stuff outside of life rather than just this.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we really had to work on as a couple is trying to balance our marriage with the business because they can quickly become intertwined because there's big decisions we have to make all the time. There's hard moments that we have to work through. There's been times we've carried it into our house and
it never ends well.
Yeah, it never ends well. Everyone's tired. And so trying to set those boundaries and figure out how we can resolve these issues and not bring them home. And we try to set time away that we don't do anything. And actually something we've recently tried to do is from 5 to 7 when we're all home as a family and our daughter's still awake is let's try to stay off our phones as much as we can. after 7 o'clock when she goes to bed, if we need to work for another hour or two, we work then. And that has seemed to work well for us, just because that's the stage of life we're in. And we still try to set time, just us together. Actually, today we had 30 minutes to go on a lunch date. So we went on a lunch date because we never get to go on dates, just him and I anymore. And so we try to use these little opportunities to take time away from our business.
I think that's a great strategy, and I think anybody in ag can probably relate with you of there's just not much work-life separation when you live where you work or you're married to who you work with or both
And it's
of
so
those things.
seasonal. And you guys know this, the feed business. I'm working between us and the employees. We are in there I get there about 6 o'clock in the morning during that season, and I might get home at 10:30. And it's no different than a row crop farmer. When it's springtime, it's time to go. And it takes a lot of patience from your spouse, especially because unfortunately she has to single parent a lot during that time, because I've gone helping those customers. So there is some learning curves, but it also comes with freedom that you have to realize as well.
And I love what you said about building the legacy for your daughter. I think that's what most young people who are in ag today are here to do. We were given a gift to grow up in the industry or to be blessed with the passion for the industry. And we want to see that opportunity provided for our kids, because the opportunity, to be quite honest, is getting harder to come by. And I'm sure you guys know that with growing the business and how you approach lending, and it's tough to make work.
Oh, yeah.
And I even think, like, if you can help those high schoolers, you can help them understand and give them the opportunities. I always think back to my high school self and being super involved in FFA and just wanting to experience everything and wanting to take on every aspect of the agriculture industry. And those opportunities aren't nearly as what they used to be. I feel like, especially in Illinois, while we are still an agriculture state, it's not everywhere. And especially the show livestock, I feel like we have a lot of show pigs in this area, but we don't have a lot of the other species as much as I'd like. We don't have these huge show circuits like Oklahoma and Texas do, and places like that. And so trying to give these kids the opportunities, like, I would love my daughter, if she chooses to, I would love her to show and have these circuits to run all summer long. I'd love her to have those opportunities.
I guess the best way that I could put it would be go back to your high school days, especially into college. You're in FFA, you're in 4-H. You look at those kids. Well, National Convention was just a couple weeks ago, as we all saw. All those kids are so fired up about agriculture. And for some reason, I guess as young adults, a lot of them, that flame goes out. For what reason, I don't know. I think there's a huge disconnect right now. I mean, let's look at the numbers. A lot of our farmers are older. There's not a lot of young people. It is a high risk job, mentally, physically, and financially. You pour everything you have into working in agriculture. And we preach that a lot, but I don't want these high school kids or my daughter to get the idea that, it's too taxing. It's much easier to go get a 9-to-5 job where I can move closer to a bigger city and I'm making, 6 figures by the time I'm 27, making videos on TikTok about finance. But that, there is a lot of people out there that didn't have the opportunity to grow up the way we did.
I agree. I do think flame, for some reason, goes away for a lot of kids after high school. I know even for me, it kind of did. Like, I went to college for ag, and then after that, I was like, well, I don't even know if I'm going to get a job in ag. Like, I don't know if this is what I want to do anymore. I just didn't have the confidence in my field. And I think a lot of that was just the opportunities I was presented, or lack of presentation of opportunities. And I'm like, I think there's a place for everyone. And I want to be able to offer those opportunities as much as I can.
For sure. And in being in retail, we have a lot of people that come in that don't understand agriculture. I mean, they drive by and, we just popped in, wanted to see what this was about. And unfortunately, as I said, those young adults lose that flame. It's still our job. I mean, because this is why we're in the disconnect that we currently have, that when we lose that flame, we don't continue advocating for ag. I mean, we have a generation right now that is afraid to eat meat. For what reason? We don't know, because we quit educating on it. I think it's kind of lead to some problems, but that's where I want to be different. That all of the kids that work here, 4-Hers that utilize our services, my kids themselves, I want them to know that this is something you can continue to do, even though you have other people saying ag's not going to last long term, when in reality, it has to. It's not going to go anywhere. We just are going to have to adapt to where it is headed.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to continue advocating. I think that's the best thing we can do as agriculturalists, is try to advocate for our industry. And I do feel like sometimes we feel that we want to sit back and just do what we do, and we don't want any judgment, we don't want any questions, but we need those questions to educate. And so I think we all have the opportunity just to do that every day in our life. It doesn't have to be on a social media platform. It can literally just be talking to anyone. You have that opportunity to leave an impact.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have a voice. And I said the other day, we've been taught by the older generation that just ignore the outsiders. They're never going to understand it. They didn't grow up in it. Just put your head down and keep working. Well, that's created a problem because now we have people that don't trust us, when in reality, we're making decisions based, in my opinion, most of the time based off of the betterment of our consumer, not necessarily ourselves all of the time. We spent so long not advocating for that people don't realize that.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex issue. And I think like your guys' passion and your legacy that you're building shines through. And I'm so glad that you're able to share that with the kids who work there, the people that you interact with. And that's a really good thing for us to kind of just take away from this is don't put that passion, that fire out. I think that was the trend for quite a while there of, oh, you don't want to be in ag, it's too hard, go somewhere else. Like, don't put that passion out if somebody has it. We need those people. And two, be open to those conversations, that even if they are a little bit challenging, because that's the only way that we're going to change anybody's mindset about what's going on in the industry. I just want to thank you guys both so much for sharing your story with us today. It's always fun to hear from somebody who does something a little bit different or has built a business like your guys's that's pretty diverse together. Where can people learn more about your story, follow up with you if they want to learn more?
The best place to know more about the day-to-day is both of us are on TikTok, two very different sides of TikTok. But depending on your interest, following each of us, definitely a good starting point if you are not local. Facebook we're big on. We have a website. Bear with us, everybody. It's kind of in the work. It's under construction, but still usable, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it needs some help, more not from our side of things, but from the creators. But we're working on that. But definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Springpoint Co. And it's called Springpoint Company LLC on Facebook. It has a black and white logo. You can find us there. And we're also on TikTok too, as at Springpoint Co. And then both of us each have our own personal platforms where we share a lot of the behind the scenes, Penny DuSablon and Cole DuSablon.
Be sure, if you're in the Illinois area, you guys check them out for your show feed and Western apparel needs. Thank you so much for being on today.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you.
If you've enjoyed spending time with us today, please take a moment to review the podcast on Apple Podcasts or join the conversation on social media. Do you have a topic you would like to discuss or know someone with a story to share? Apply to be a guest on the podcast at farmingonpurpose.com. You can follow the host of Farming on Purpose, Lexi, on your favorite social media platforms for more content by searching for Farming on Purpose. And remember, if you look around your table and aren't inspired by the people there, it's time to find a new seat.